Hello, my name is Louisiana Crawfish-Man. I want to welcome you to my website. If you are a teacher or parent trying to extract confidence from inside of your students, you will be amazed after your students hear me share the origins of my books, which first began when I was in the 7th grade, and how they too can find the same confidence as I found. Next time your school or organization needs a speaker, allow me to show you what I mean. Let me help you help them pull out that confidence hiding inside all of us. But for now, let me tell you how it all began. As best as I can remember, my inspiration day for writing children's stories began back in 1977. After nightly requests from my young daughter to tell her the same bedtime story I made up for her about a snake and turtle over and over again, I decided to self-publish my own book. Because I did not have an art background nor confidence in myself, I ran an ad in the local Baton Rouge newspaper, found an artist, wrote the story, bought some paper, found someone to print 900 copies of Maurice and Gaston on a printing press at my job, and sold copies of the book at wholesale for 75 cents in those days to local stores who resold them for $1.25. Today, 35 years later, I have about 24 copies and would not take less than $1,000 a copy. That's how much that little book means to me. Book number 2, T-Boy the Little Cajun. When I was about 15, I would drive the boat for my grandfather to help run his fishing nets in nearby Lake Dotree. What an adventure it was each time we sped across the open waters of the lake in the early morning hours. And what a rush to pull in so many big fish stuck in the fishing nets that flopped around in our boat, causing so much excitement that I have never forgotten. I didn't realize at the time life was allowing me to experience the last generation of French-speaking Cajuns who lived off the land. Book number 3, T-Boy and the Trial for Life. A homework assignment about fishing back in the 7th grade in 1961 gave me inspiration to publish this story. Because my mother saved the story in a shoebox in her closet, I was able to publish it years later in 1978. Since we lived on Bayou Teche, I fished just about every day after school and weekends. So naturally, when I had to write a homework assignment, I automatically wrote about things I knew about, fishing. Book number 4, T-Boy in Mossland. This was a turning point in my art career. I had now somehow developed the confidence I had been looking for to illustrate this book myself. Before, I didn't think my art was good enough, but over time realized that I wasn't trying to win an art contest. I was only trying to tell a good story, and those primitive pictures inside my head were very simply drawn my way. Another big lesson for me: sometimes it's okay to just do it your way. After book number 4, things began to go wild. Look, in the bayou, it's a catfish. No, it's a pirogue. No, it's Crawfish-Man. Once in the world of superheroes, there came from the land called Sportsman's Paradise a creature who was neither man nor beast. He had been unknown to the people of this land since his creation many years ago. But to the animals of the swamp, he has always been their hero. At last, this story can be told, for out of the swamp he comes to show his powers to all that would see. Behold, Crawfish-Man! From the moss tile he is born, with powerful legs that let him leap over trees, an upper body of bulletproof crawfish shell, and a cape of moss used to tangle enemies. Antenna-like feelers hear things 10 miles away, which no other superhero can do. Crawfish tail propels him underwater. Giant claws cut trees in two. Book number 5, The Adventures of Crawfish-Man. It all began one night back in 1978 after watching the new Incredible Hulk on TV. I said to my son that night, Louisiana should have its own superhero. I sat down, drew a man with a smile, claws, pointed head, and a C on his chest. The next day I took the drawing to my son's 4th grade class at Westminster Elementary in Baton Rouge, where his classmates instructed me to put the C on his belt buckle, add muscles, remove the smile. Single most important lesson in 35 years. When you write for kids, ask kids for advice. Book number 6, Crawfish-Man rescues Ron Guidry. In 1980, after reading about the Statue of Liberty given to us as a gift by France back in 1886, I decided to do a book with Ron Guidry's permission and also dedicate it to the people of France. In this story, even though New York is a long way from home, when Louisiana hero Ron Guidry got into trouble, he sent a message back home to Crawfish-Man asking for help. Book number 7, Dark Gator, villain of the Atchafalaya. Behind every good guy is a bad guy, so I needed to create a villain for Crawfish-Man to battle back in 1980. But in the process of developing a villain, out of my imagination came other Louisiana characters such as Fat Pa-tot, Coderfield, the Clumsy Pochons, and of course also extracted was Cypress Castle. Book number 8, Santa's Cajun Christmas Adventure. After the success of my first 7 books, my friends begged me to write a book in Cajun dialect, which became the best-selling book of my series. Monsieur, let me tell you that, because I was there, how Santa most passed Christmas in his underwear. It was the night before Christmas. I look all over the house, me. Not a creature was stirring. They don't even got a tisuri. Book number 9, Crawfish-Man's 50 Ways to Keep from Using Drugs. In 1982, I took the time to do this book because of my concern for my own kids. Twice I took Crawfish-Man's cape to Europe and showed it to students who lined up to touch it because they knew that anyone who touches Crawfish-Man's cape will never use drugs. Book number 10, Cooncan, Boy of the Swamp. Years ago in Iberia Parish, near my hometown of Lorville, stories were told of a swamp dweller who lived alone on the edge of the swamp and seldom came out because some people bullied him. Shortly before my grandmother passed away, she confirmed more stories of this man, whom she invited to share meals with her family. Inspired by these stories, a new Louisiana character was born. Book number 11, Rhombus, the Cajun Unicorn. In 1984, I wanted to create a unicorn for Louisiana, but also wanted to tell the story of the exile of the Acadians. In this story, T-Boy and Colinda discover more than treasure while walking in the woods one day. Through the words of a 200-year-old statue, you will also learn more about why Louisiana was chosen as the home for our Acadian ancestors. Book number 12, Crawfish-Man's Night Before Christmas. Based on the success of my first Christmas story, I published another story using most of my characters in 1984. Instead of full dialect like the first book, it is sprinkled with Cajun words and phrases that I grew up hearing. After Fat Pa-tot and Dark Gator kidnap Santa, the swamp creatures come together to rescue Santa, who has his biggest adventure yet. This book is dedicated to all of my friends from South Louisiana who speak with the Cajun accent, which makes the rest of the world smile. Book number 13, Crawfish-Man rescues the old beachcomber. While growing up in Iberia Parish, I often watched Bob Scarce's old beachcomber great outdoors hunting and fishing shows on TV. This adventure begins with Bob fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, swallowed by Monstro, and rescued by none other than Crawfish-Man. Book number 14, Real Cajun School of Cooking Cookbook. Life in my early years found me in Grandma Zulmile's kitchen, helping shuck corn, peel snap beans, skin catfish, or just stirring from her big black pot. Thanks to her recipes and recipes from my friends and family, this book was published in 1990. Book number 15, World Famous New Iberia, Louisiana Cooking. No matter where I traveled over the years, folks have asked me where to go and what to eat in New Iberia. Here are more recipes from my family and friends in Iberia Parish, published in 1997. Book number 16, World Famous Lafayette, Louisiana Cooking. Why do 5 million people come to Lafayette each year? No explanation needed. Best food and more restaurants than anywhere in the world. Black and white photos of restaurants and recipes from Préjean's, Randall's, and others are included in our best-selling cookbook. Book number 17, 12 Boudreaux Thibodeau jokes, 12 New Iberia recipes, 12 Cajun Days of Christmas, 12 reasons you might be Cajun. And reason number 1 you might be Cajun, you start an angel food cake with a roux. Reason number 2, you look at a rice field and automatically know how much gravy will cover it. Book number 19, Dead Family Walking, the Bork family story of Dead Men Walking. In 2003, I was asked by the family of a young girl murdered 25 years earlier to tell their story because they could never bury the memory of what transpired. Because I knew the family, knew the girl, knew what to do and how to do it, I stopped my life to help them. Again, if your school or organization needs a speaker, be the first to book me for an author's visit. Give me a holler. Louisiana Crawfish Man is waiting to visit your school anywhere in America. Check out my Cajun seasonings at LouisianaCrawfishMan.com and my children's books at LittleCajunBooks.com.